beautiful friends. It's Amanda here, and today we're talking about a new palette from Gourmande Girls. This is the Frozen Kiss palette. This is currently available. You can find it on the Gourmande Girls website for just under 55 US dollars. As usual for the brand, their 14 pan palettes are pretty consistently priced at $54.99. This is such a beautiful wintertime color story. You know me, once I see a lot of sparkly colors and some purple and some green together, I'm automatically interested. So we're going to take a close-up look at this palette, the packaging, we're going to do some swatches, just a couple of comparisons, and I'll also show you these shadows in action on my eyes for the eye look that I'm wearing today in a little purpley tutorial. So I'm going to give you all the info, hopefully all the info that you could possibly need. Let's start by taking a close-up look at the palette packaging first. The outer packaging has some very sparkly snowflake looking stars or star looking snowflakes, depending on how you want to view this, and a really pretty soft pink to blue ombre. This palette does have a sleeve that it slides out of versus a cardboard box as its outer packaging, and the sleeve and the palette do have the exact same artwork on the front and back. Inside, you see 2 rows of 7 shadows. There is a nice big mirror in here, and each one of these shadows has an individual little imprint. Some are snowflakes, hearts, a little Christmas tree. These are super duper cute. This is a very matte heavy palette. The majority of the shades in here are just straight up regular mattes. No sequin shades or satins or anything like that. So we have 5 shimmer shades, and the remaining 9 shades are regular velvety mattes. Here you can see the shadows swatched straight onto my arm. I'm not using any primer. I don't spray my brush or anything like that. These are just applied straight onto my bare skin, and you will get to see these on top of primer in the tutorial portion. Here's a little close up. You can see some of the nuance, particularly in these shimmery shadows. Some of them are swirled, or they may have that tie-dye type of look in the pan, so a bunch of different pigments working together, and this is the shade that it creates. I love the shade Dewdrops the most. It's my favorite shade in the palette, and I do use it in the tutorial, so you'll get to see it's even prettier on the lid than it is here in the swatch. Performance-wise, I've been happy with this palette. It's just the 2 very light pastel shades that I find need a little bit more work to build up, but I will use one of those in this tutorial as well, and you'll get to see that I end up with a nice opaque coverage, a really nice color payoff. It just takes a little bit more building up, a little bit more work than some of the other matte shades that I'm going to use. While I am very satisfied with the performance of these shades, I do find myself wishing for some more shimmers with a snow themed, frozen, icy. I do think of more sparkles, so I wish that this was at least a 50-50 split. Their shimmers are super beautiful, and particularly in this palette, I'm very happy with the shades and the textures. I just think this is all around one of their best curated palettes for me personally. My number one main criticism is that I just wanted a couple more shimmery shades. I would have loved to see a lovely bright white, maybe something with a minty green shift. I would really like to see a green shimmer in here as well to coordinate with that green matte shade called Wintergreen. Overall, I like this palette. I think that the color story is really pretty. It's interesting. When I get to the comparisons a little later on in the video, I do find that this one is quite unique in my collection, but I just find myself wishing for a little bit more sparkle, especially in a snow-themed palette. Now, here I'm using one of those pastel mattes that I was talking about during the swatch portion, and you can see that I am getting a nice bright color out of this little pastel shade. I just really had to layer it up a couple times to get the level of pigmentation that I was looking for. And I am using a really teeny tiny brush, so that's also contributing to the fact that I need to layer up quite a bit, but I wanted a very controlled, precise application of this matte shade. I didn't want this to get too far away from those little inner corner detail areas. So I was able to ultimately get what I was looking for from the shadow. It just took a little bit more work than the other mattes. However, I'm sure that it's pretty obvious from the application that you're seeing this video, but these shadows do layer really, really nicely on top of one another. I went back and added more of this thaw out shade, for example, and nothing really got disrupted. I didn't find that things were getting muddied up, that things were disappearing or creasing. And I wore this makeup all day and well into the evening. I went out for dinner with my family this evening. And when I got home, it was probably close to 9 p.m. before I took my makeup off. So I truly wore this for 12 plus hours. This looked almost exactly like it did when I applied it. I did lose some of the shimmer near my crease, which is a normal wear and tear type of thing for me, but the mattes stayed perfectly in place. I was very, very happy with not only how this look applied, but really the wear time was incredibly impressive to me, especially with how much I layered these shades up. So 10 out of 10 on performance. For this look in particular, I am just overall happy with how it went on, how it wore, and how it looks. I mean, this is a classic Amanda-tastic type of look, so I kind of knew I was going to love it, and I did. Now that you've seen the swatches, the close-ups, you've seen these shadows in action on my eyes, I want to show you a couple of palette comparisons. I truly struggled to even come up with ideas for this palette because I just really don't have a lot of eyeshadow palettes with a similar color scheme. One of the first ones that came to mind is this Spring Magic palette from Unearthly. And as you can see, I think a lot of the shimmers are really similar. And I also think that the color story vibes are similar, but the one-to-one shades, particularly in the mattes, are just not really there. Aside from that last dark brown shade, which is sort of a gimme as far as comparisons go, I think these are better as companion palettes versus really being twins. Next, I'm doing a little combo. I grabbed some of the deeper and grungier shades from It's a Mood and some of the lighter pastel and sparkly shades from the Frosty the Snowman palette, both from ColourPop. And I think this is pretty decent. Obviously, we're way off on that green matte shade, and overall, the mattes are lacking a brightness and really just a saturation of cool color that the Frozen Kiss palette has. So, again, not super similar, particularly with the mattes. Lastly, we have another ColourPop Mega palette. This is the Aurora Struck palette, and I do think that this is by far the best comparison, at least in my personal collection, that I could come up with. These would definitely give you some very similar looks. Obviously, not every shade is a one for one, but as far as my own personal palette collection goes, I think that Aurora Struck is really the closest that we could call dupable for Frozen Kiss. I really like this palette. I think this might be my favorite Gourmande Girls palette to date. I also really like their peach palette that came out over the summer, but I really gravitate towards a lot of the shades in here. I love a really silvery, super sparkly shade. I love purples, as you probably already know. I'm really drawn towards these shades right here, this really grungy jewel tone little corner. No surprise there, I'm sure. I think this is really nicely curated set of shadows. It's definitely very colorful, but it feels colorful in an approachable, comfy, almost casual type of way. I love the packaging. I just think this is very pretty, but not overdone, simple to the point, holiday vibes that you can wear all through the winter. holiday vibes, but not too on the nose. Definitely more wintry than holiday. It's just striking a really nice balance for me. Of course, the shadows perform beautifully. We've got the little imprints in the shadow pans, all details that I really enjoy. So I think this might be my favorite Gourmande Girls palette to date. But I would love to hear what you think about this one. Have you tried any of their other palettes? What are your favorites? What are the standouts? I always love to hear what you think about things too. So make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Guess not. Okay. I love my lip combo. I've been hooked on this. It's the ColourPop Lippy Pencil in Love Bug, and then my Enchanted Autumn tinted lip balm in the shade Crackle. These are so pretty. If you have these, you need to try them together. So pretty. I didn't want to do blue. I feel like everybody's going to do blue. All the tutorials for this palette are probably blue. It's not that blue of a palette, honestly. It's more of a purple palette than a blue palette, if you ask me, which you did by clicking on my video. All right, I got a lot to do. Get your life together. If it was that simple. Mama. Am I going to be able to finish all the work that I wanted to finish today? Who knows? Are we perilously close to Christmas? Yep. Am I hanging on by a thread? I'll give you one guess. Bye. Is it so wrong that I want to shirk all my responsibilities and wear cozy jammies by the fire? Is it? Is it so wrong that I picture there being a huge pile of cookies and charcuterie, perhaps an adult beverage? Who's to say? Who's to say? Soon. That'll be me soon. I hope. As soon as I put on purple eyeshadow, I do feel at least 20% more confident that I can tackle the day. So, pro tip, try that out. Frozen kiss. It's the frozen kiss. Let it go. No, I won't. I won't. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. All right. Thanks for watching. I love your face. And I hope that you're warm and cozy and just having a nice little day. And if you're not having a nice little day, that's all right. Happens to the best of us. Throw on some purple eyeshadow. Maybe make some hot tea. We got this. We got this. Love your face. Bye.